All right, welcome back with Planning with a Purpose live stream. As you know, that means it is Tuesday at 12 p.m. and I am here with my girl, Muffy Mendoza. Muffy, what's going on with you?
Nothing much. I'm here. I'm here to plan with purpose.
Awesome. And we're also joined by our second or our first guest, right, of the stream, Christine Mondor of Evolve EA. What's going on, Christine? How are you?
I'm doing okay. Just drifting into this beautiful fall, right?
Yeah, I do love the transition between summer and fall. I'm not going to lie.
hmm
It is very
hmm
beautiful. Well, as you know, this is Planning with a Purpose podcast for PGH 2050. We are a weekly live stream hosted by myself and community builder Muffy Mendoza. We will be here every Tuesday at 12, bringing city leaders, everyday residents, thought partners to the table to break down Pittsburgh's comprehensive plan, share stories from across our communities, and highlight why inclusive city planning matters for our future. We will be streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and each episode invites listeners to learn, engage, and imagine a sustainable, thriving Pittsburgh, one community conversation at a time. So, as you remember, we are here joined by Christine Mondor. Christine, you're an architect, an educator, an activist, and most importantly, you're a steering committee member on the Pittsburgh City Plan, Comprehensive Plan. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how all of your experience led to your involvement in the comp plan.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, so I was trained as an architect, but I do a lot of planning. We work in cities across the state, across the region, and the country, helping them decide their future. So I've been so excited to see Pittsburgh do this work. My background is I sat on the Planning Commission for 10 years, and I think so many decisions. I so respect the work that goes on with the Department of City Planning, the Planning Commission, and all the people who show up with their projects, because everybody in that room cares so much about their city. And I really genuinely saw some, very passionate people and ideas and things. Now, they might not all agree, but everybody's passionate about that. And very often in our planning commission deliberations, we didn't have information that we needed. Like, what would the impact be on housing if this project were to go forward? Or what are the needs, and how do we have a community conversation that is effective and equitable, but also acknowledges the kind of legal implications for in the development world and how we build things, right? And so we kept pushing for a comprehensive plan. And so that was that was the previous administration, and now it will come to fruition in the next administration. And it's just such an important tool to create a vision that we can all align behind, to create the mechanisms that kind of level the playing field. So when people come to the table to talk about a particular project or proposal, we kind of know what it is that we're aiming towards. There's, not a open realm of possibility. We know that this has to serve the public good. It has to serve the, private interests, things like that. And a comprehensive plan helps people align to those goals. So super
So,
excited.
so if we come up with this comprehensive plan and I come into $50 billion one day and I say I want to put a skating rink in the middle of the north side, we can say that's not really a part of our plan. Or is that how something the comprehensive plan could be used for? Like not necessarily thwarting development, but making sure that it aligns with what the city wants and needs.
Yeah, that's a great question. Is like, so the plan is the 30,000 foot level, and then you typically have other things that come in under it. You might have a neighborhood plan. You might have zoning. You have a number of different things that say, here's our goal. This is our North Star. We imagine the North Side to be an amazing place to be, and here's why. And that might be within the comprehensive plan. Here's where how we imagine mobility and transportation infrastructure might help that. Here's where we think housing and, you know, population growth might happen. And here's where we think we want to work and we want to play. And the comprehensive plan kind of charts that out across the city. So the city knows how to prioritize investments, prioritize policy. Then this particular question you ask about whether a pool or a skating rink or whatever it is might go in there, that might fall to, the zoning code. Like the zoning that we created from the comprehensive plan, does it allow for this? Yes or no? Or it might be a neighborhood plan where we've come together and said, this park really needs a skating rink and this is a great place for it. Let's go. So
I love that. Awesome.
Yep.
Go ahead, Muffy.
On the list or not. But so I wanted to ask because, like Alyssa said, if let's say a resident again has $50,000, they come and they want to say, and they say, I want to put a skating rink on the north side. What role does resident voice play in the planning process? We know that we're on the community engagement team, so we've been going around and asking people, like, what do they want? What do they see as the future of Pittsburgh? How do we grow? But when it comes down to actually making decisions, how will you all center resident voice in terms of taking these ideas, these development opportunities to city council or wherever they got to go?
Yeah. So the comprehensive plan, I would love to see as many people as possible participate in the comprehensive plan. We don't all have the ability to, show up for every community meeting and, think about every small detail that goes on in our community. But at the biggest level, this is the umbrella that helps kind of create those other policies and plans and things that actually make those decisions. So on one hand, we can say, well, what if somebody wants to put, something that's great for them, an ice skating rink, and I don't like ice skating. Like, how do I kind of get a say in that? Well, hopefully I've had a couple places to get a say in the creation of the comprehensive plan, in the creation of a neighborhood plan, in the creation of zoning. However, it also raises the possibility of me not just feeling like my only position is to say no. It raises the possibility of me saying, I see that we want some community infrastructure. We need a place for kids to come and study after school, and we need a community center, right? And if I run a nonprofit, instead of me going to place to place to place, seeing who's going to tolerate my kids running around after school, right? I can also go into that community plan and see, this is a place that they value for community. There's going to be investments in a park, and there's going to be near to housing. And this is a great place for my community center, for my nonprofit, say, to serve that community. So the things we want to see can be activated by the plan, as well as the things that we don't want to see. It doesn't take away any opportunity we have to weigh in, but it does help us align to maybe actually get things done.
I'm also hearing a lot of, this work is going to require people to come to it, right? We can see that cities shift, nations shift when people don't come to the table, or when votes aren't casted, or when we doubt the power of our political voice, or we doubt the power of our political stance, right? Or what is important to us. And so what role do neighborhoods and organizations and residents play in making sure this doesn't just sit on the shelf? I mean, Christine, you and I have been in rooms where planning is the topic of conversation, and then 7 years later, they're pulling out of the shelf and blowing dust off of it. So how do RCOs, how do institutions make sure that this plan isn't sitting on the shelf? What is the form of accountability here, and who do we hold accountable?
Yeah, that's a good question. I did, when Mayor Gainey came in office, I led the infrastructure committee. And, we had just had the Fern Hollow Bridge fall into the valley. Infrastructure, well, this is going to be what everybody's talking about, right? That's what I was sure of. And then when we did the community outreach, what do you think that the single most important thing was for people? What do you think?
Oh, this is a good one. I don't know.
Muffy?
I would say probably fixing the bridge and infrastructure. Like people want to make sure they're safe when they're driving on the road, transportation.
Right? That's what I thought too. I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to figure out how to pull down some federal money. We're going to really look at our bridge system, blah, blah, blah. The single most important thing to people were sidewalks. Like something that we don't even think about, right? And so, like, sidewalks, you think about something as humble as a sidewalk. Well, what's a comprehensive plan have to do with a sidewalk? Well, when we look at a neighborhood as a network of places that you can get to, when you have a sidewalk and the sidewalks are in good shape, it opens up opportunities for people to live better lives in that neighborhood, but also for businesses to grow in that neighborhood. And then we have to decide how and where people grow, where businesses grow, and how do we make sure that people who maybe don't have a car or are seasoned and can't get around as well as they did, make sure that they have places to live that access that infrastructure. So it all fits together when we start putting these pieces together. And hearing in the infrastructure committee that we need sidewalks doesn't get us to a plan. It just tells us that that's the pain point, and we need the plan to make sure the pain point moves into action. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question? Because it made me think about when you said that, I was like, okay, even though it's not, some people wouldn't say sidewalks is directly tied to it, it's still definitely an infrastructure issue. And it's definitely like transportation. How do I get from one place to the other? But I also started to think about neighborhoods that so I'm always, of course, I own a home in Sheridan. That's my neighborhood that I'm a part of. And so I'm always thinking about neighborhoods that don't have plans and why the comprehensive plan. So Sheridan has a park plan for Sheridan Park, but it doesn't have a plan for the neighborhood in and of itself. And so I'm wondering, like, how do comp plans help in neighborhoods where they don't have plans, so they can't point to like specific pain points in the community because the community hasn't had an opportunity to actually say what they want.
Absolutely. Remind me the name of the main street in Sheridan.
What is it? Oh, Chartiers.
Chartiers, thank you.
I'm about to say lovely.
Yeah.
Wait, it's become mundane, so I'm like, what is it?
You're like, I don't even know. It's that street. No, we're Pittsburghers. We always call it by something else anyway. So like, here's the cool thing about Sheridan and Chartiers, right? Like, you've got a busway stop there. You've got industrial down in the valley there. You got some jobs down there that are like different types of jobs. You've got a park and ride. The PRT looks at their park and rides to say, could this be transit-oriented development, right? And then Chartiers, especially down in the valley below the schools, got some really great little business buildings. And then as you go further up, it's also got some little pockets of development, like that old ice cream shop that was there, and like these crazy cool little things that are just perfect for opportunities for entrepreneurship and for things. But if we don't have a comprehensive plan that acknowledges Sheridan's place in the city's network of places, and it doesn't say we should prioritize transit-oriented development in this area and make sure that those folks can get to places all the way across the city. And then it filters down to making sure that we have like zoning that doesn't penalize you for wanting to start an ice cream shop in a little place that used to be an ice cream shop years ago, but maybe doesn't fall into the zoning code anymore, right? So like, it doesn't answer your question, Muffy, but it says like, this is the first step of saying where Sheridan lives in the system of Pittsburgh, because otherwise it doesn't get drawn, it doesn't get paid attention to. And then we got to dig deep and we got to look at that, the fabric of that area and understand how it's actually working, and then construct policies around it to make sure that it's working.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I believe that it's kind of like Pittsburgh knows, right? There are corridors that back in the day were primed for central business districts. There were neighborhoods that were primed for huge housing and family, and those bones still exist. A lot of that infrastructure still exists. And I think hand in hand with that, in terms of all of these identities that these 90 neighborhoods have, let's just tailor those things to stand in their own light, in their own right, with the infrastructure that they've had before, and then erect policies around that. and say we're safeguarding this thing again, until for the future. And so I love that the comp plan can do that. And I'm curious, Christine, how does design thinking, something that you bring to this work, help us think differently about the challenges and opportunities in our neighborhoods? Because some people might find 90 neighborhoods a challenge.
You think?
Some people might say, well, this is unique.
Yeah, right.
Um, or some people will say, how do we erect this unified city with these 90 different personalities, right? Or these different spaces. Because as a native New Yorker, I wouldn't go to Brooklyn to do the things that I would do in Manhattan, although I could, but they're set up to do different things, right? And so what are some challenges and opportunities in our city from a design perspective? I'm curious that you think that we have.
Mm-hmm. I think that something that we have as Pittsburghers is we kind of like we understand these little nuanced resource flows between communities, right? Like it's the shortcuts that we know how to get from one place to another. It's the things that we understand. If you want to get this kind of thing, you have to go here. If you want to get that kind of thing, you go there. Or where you want to spend your Friday night if you want to just hang out with a group of friends, right? We have those mental maps in our heads. But I got to say, if you're not from Pittsburgh, it's not clear where those things are or how they relate. And so making our neighborhoods more legible and more welcoming in and it's not the erasure of neighborhood lines, it's the discussing neighborhoods as they relate to each other and support each other, right? I think there's maybe you guys have had this, like you turn a corner and you're like, oh my God, where am I? This is an amazing part of Pittsburgh that I didn't even know existed, right? Like let's go to Sheridan again. Like you go up to the West End Overlook,
Right.
you would have no idea that exists, and here we have this hidden gem right in the middle of the neighborhood. And how are we thinking about not just that as a point of pride, but as a resource flow that the community can benefit from, not just the traffic that comes in, but how do we kind of, think more clearly about our relationships to each other. So,
Right. Because that's even thinking when you said that, I'm thinking about like when I moved over to Sheridan, I didn't even know that the West End Overlook was up there. But the first time I rode up there, I was like, just thinking about like, what if there was more here as I drive up to this? That I like similar to when you go to Mount Washington, like you can go get ice cream, you can go get some tacos and some tequila, like all the things you do around there. Not that all of that is going to be, in Sheridan because it's so residential, but just thinking about how do you make things an experience for people so that people then recognize Elliott as a beautiful place to be and Sheridan as a beautiful place to live and all those types of things. So yeah, I agree 100%.
Even as you're going up to Mount Washington, the streets change. Like I know they change into cobblestone roads, which are expensive, but like even that simple delineation, like when we're going into Wilkinsburg, the street signs change, right? I would love if I would love a welcome to Homewood sign or one of the reasons why I got interested in the staunch different in neighborhoods is I used to live in Greenfield as a senior in college at Pitt. And then my mom bought me a car and I drove right down the street to Hazelwood. And I was like, whoa, what is this place?
Yeah, right.
I was like, oh my goodness. And I wound up organizing there for years because I was just so blown back that 0.5 miles away, maybe even less.
Totally.
This neighborhood is just like existing back here.
Totally. Yep. I went through all my years in college at CMU not knowing there was a Taco Bell a half mile away. And I got to tell you, my life would have changed if I had known that.
Yeah, it would have.
All in Pittsburgh is like that. Like it's like that everywhere in Pittsburgh. And it's crazy because I'm a native and there are still places that I discover.
Right?
Like I'm like, honestly, going up to Mount Washington, I always took the way I don't know streets because I'm from Pittsburgh. So I don't know any streets. But I always took one particular way. And
Yeah.
the one time that I made a wrong turn, quote unquote, I made a wrong turn and I ended up at the Shallow Street shops. Had
Yeah.
no idea that was there. Had no idea
Right.
about ice cream. Had no idea. And I
Yeah.
lived here my whole life.
Yeah.
So all of
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is like that. And if only we would, give each neighborhood its just due. Like
Yeah.
instead of, being siloed and secluding resources and gatekeeping and all that stuff. I mean, Pittsburgh could really be a world-class city because it has the potential. It has the bones, as Alyssa said.
I love the way that you frame the relationships, because I know we play on this all the time, but a lot of people will say, why do I need to cross that bridge? Why do I need to cross that river?
Mhm.
There's a why. I don't need to, which is understandable. There are a lot of people who are in larger places who don't leave their major city because they don't have to. So, but that doesn't mean they have to live without the resources where they are.
Right.
Yep.
And
That's
so
yep.
if they're not going to go over to Larmer from a certain place to get their resources, let them get it where they are
Mhm.
and do away with these things, or make the relationship to that place easier.
Easier, exactly. Think about the easier, and this is where it gets into the hard stuff. Like we can't just do hey, Sheridan's great campaign and expect things to come, because we have to solve the infrastructure that's needed for
Right.
people to come and people to go. So the busway, we're one of the few cities with what's called a fixed guideway. It's like it's a thing that's only a busway, right? So it makes it really fast when you have a high frequency of buses to get anywhere. But PRT is working really hard, even though there's all these budget cuts and things like that we're talking about. They work really hard to say, like, if somebody's working on a job in Oakland, how do we get them there the fastest way possible, right? And same thing, like, there are places that it's hard to get between places, like, say, the Strip and Oakland and Sheridan. How do we make it so that people can go to opportunities in other neighborhoods and aren't only burdened in their own neighborhood? Because not every neighborhood's going to have a grocery store, not every neighborhood's going to have a complete main street. So how do we develop the city in a way that buses and public transit are viable? And that's land use. That is straight up land use, and it's putting density, accessible and affordable housing in places that can be accessed. So
I agree with you. You've worked on many comprehensive plans, eco districts, across cities. You've worked on Wilkinsburg TRID. We worked on that together, across the country. I have two questions. And looking back on your career and experience, what lessons can Pittsburgh learn from those other planning processes? And what gives you hope about Pittsburgh's ability to achieve these goals in this plan?
Mm-hmm.
What can we learn, and what gives you hope?
Yeah. Um, I, this is kind of fresh in my head, uh, because I just spent a weekend in Buffalo, New York, which kind of has a different way of envisioning itself. It's a different kind of city. I think that one of our most special things is our topography. It's what makes Sheridan special. What makes the Southside Flat special. Larmer and everywhere in between, right? I think that we can find a logic to city making that responds to topography. We did that in Wheeling, West Virginia, where we had river neighborhoods and stream creek neighborhoods, because their issues were the same. The creek neighborhoods had flooding and landslides and things that belong to that topography, and the rivers belong to a bigger, broader network and different issues, right? And I think when we look at ourselves that way, like Alyssa, we're working on the project in the 9 Mile Run watershed,
Yeah.
and you can see how people identify with their topographies, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really interesting way. And the policies in those topographies generally makes sense if you have a flat area, if you have a sloped area. Your policies and your opportunities for development are are different, right? So that I'm interested in, because from where we've worked in other cities our size, they don't have that same opportunity or challenge as we do. So I think we're going to have a unique set of places come out of this comprehensive plan. Um, your second part of your question was what was it?
Was about hope.
What gives me hope? Okay. Because okay. So what gives me hope again is that we have so many people who love their city, right? And um, we have institutions. I'm going to say this cautiously, because when I go into another city, I don't have full view of everything. I'm not a resident who's lived there a long time, but I feel like our institutions give us some social resiliency. And by institutions, I could mean, an organization like Homewood Children's Village, or I could mean, an organization like the Carnegie Museums. Like, we have institutions that help us work together on things, and we need to lean into those institutions and make them effective and efficient. You not replicate just for the sake of replication, but to acknowledge that we have these ways of working together. I hope the comprehensive plan aligns many of those organizations so that we can be rowing in the same direction. And that's what gives me hope, is like, we've got good infrastructure, we don't all row in the same direction. Like, we gotta get that North Star and keep moving towards it. So
I love that. Muffy, you're on mute.
Oh, I didn't realize. I was just saying I really like that you pointed out that, I always say that whenever I'm somewhere else, it's like Pittsburgh has everything it needs to succeed. Like, it really does. When you go to other cities, you become very aware of the size being so ideal within the city, of all of the great organizations we have in our city, of the even just the landscape of the city.
Mhm.
It makes it an ideal place to live. Only thing I don't like is the clouds. Them clouds can go any time of the day.
That's awesome.
It has everything it needs. It's just like you said, getting people to row the boat in the same direction.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a good takeaway for us, and a guiding principle is, let's all row in the same direction. I think that is so awesome. And I love that. We have everything we need to succeed, as Muffy said. We have the infrastructure, our bones remember, but let's just all row in the same direction. And I really appreciate that perspective. And I also really appreciate you bringing in how much policies and zoning, all of these need to come together for us to really think about a truly sustainable Pittsburgh. So, Christine, it was great talking to you today. Anything else you have for Christine today, Muffy?
Nothing, just reminding y'all to visit pgh2050.com. Do whatever you can do there. I don't know what to tell y'all to do there now, but take the 90 to 1 survey, learn more about your neighborhood's plan, about our topic areas, all that jazz. So I wanted to just put the link down there for y'all.
Yes. And thank you once again, Christine. You can catch us every Tuesday at 12 at Planning with a Purpose podcast. Muffy, as usual, you give me life. Christine, it was awesome as usual. Thank you both.
Likewise. Thank you guys for doing this. This is so great. So
thank you, Christine.
Take care.
Peace.